History remembers the grand wars Napoleon marching across Europe, the trenches of World War I, the atomic bombs of World War II. But sometimes, history is stranger than fiction. In October 1925, two nations, Greece and Bulgaria, came close to full-scale war. Not over land, not over religion, not even over politics, but because of a single dog. Today, we tell the full story of the War of the Stray Dog. A conflict lasted less than 2 weeks, killed dozens, and left the world shaking its head in disbelief. To understand why a dog could trigger a war, we must first understand the Balkans. In the early 20th century, the region was a storm of nationalism and rivalry. During the Balkan Wars from 1912 to 1913, Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Montenegro first fought against the Ottoman Empire, and then turned on each other. Borders shifted rapidly, creating deep resentment and a thirst for revenge. Then came World War I. Bulgaria sided with the Central Powers, while Greece eventually joined the Allies. Both nations emerged from the conflict exhausted. The treaties that followed hit Bulgaria particularly hard. The Treaty of Neuilly in 1919 stripped it of land, which was given to Greece, Yugoslavia, and Romania. It faced heavy reparations, and its army was slashed to just 20,000 men. By 1925, Bulgaria was a wounded nation, simmering with resentment. The Greeks, on the other hand, saw themselves as victors, but they too were weak, especially after the military catastrophe they suffered in Asia Minor in 1922. The frontier between them, especially near the town of Petric, was a tinderbox. Soldiers faced each other daily, weapons in hand, nerves stretched thin. While Bulgaria was nursing its wounds, Greece was drowning in its own crisis. After its devastating defeat by Turkey in 1922, over 1 million Greek refugees fled from Asia Minor, crowding into Athens, Thessaloniki, and rural towns. The country was in turmoil. The political scene was rocked by coups and counter-coups, and by 1925, a dictator, General Theodoros Pangalos, had seized power. The economy was a mess, with soaring inflation, scarce jobs, and limited food. Pangalos desperately needed a way to project strength and unite a fractured nation. Many historians believe his aggressive reaction to the border incident wasn't just about national honor. It was a calculated move to show Greece that he was a strong leader, capable of standing up to its neighbors. This chaotic internal situation helps explain why something as seemingly small as a lost dog could ignite national fury. Bulgaria in 1925 was just as fragile. The Treaty of Neuilly had stripped it of land and pride, leaving a deep scar on the national psyche. The young Tsar Boris III, only 31 years old, was struggling to hold his divided country together. Border regions like Petric were poor, mountainous, and restless, plagued by guerrilla groups, bandits, and angry villagers who made life unstable. The Bulgarian army was under strict limits, but its soldiers were also desperate to prove their nation wasn't weak. That tension, that need to defend their honor, made them quick to pull the trigger when they saw a Greek soldier suddenly appear on their side of the line. And then, on October 18, 1925, it happened. At a lonely Greek outpost near Petric, a soldier stood watch with his dog. You can almost picture the scene. Late afternoon, the sun casting long shadows over the mountains. The soldier, weary and anxious, was likely missing home. Suddenly, his dog, playful, loyal, and oblivious to borders, broke free. Maybe it smelled a rabbit. Maybe it just felt a burst of energy. The soldier gave chase, not thinking about the invisible line that separated two hostile nations. To him, it was just a few steps to retrieve his pet. But to the Bulgarian sentries watching from their post, it was an armed foreign soldier crossing into their territory. A single shot rang out, then more. The Greek soldier fell to the ground, dead. His dog, the cause of it all, vanished into the hills. The incident was over in seconds. but its consequences would last for weeks and be remembered for decades. In Athens, the news spread like wildfire. Headlines screamed, "Bulgarian murder." Angry crowds gathered, demanding revenge. Politicians, eager to capitalize on the outrage, seized the moment. General Pangalos, seeing his opportunity, ordered immediate military action. Within days, Greek troops crossed into Bulgarian territory. They advanced into nearby villages, clashing with small, outnumbered Bulgarian units. Civilians fled in panic as smoke rose from their homes. By some accounts, around 50 people died, a shockingly heavy toll for what began with one man and one dog. Bulgaria, its army too weak to retaliate, appealed desperately to the League of Nations. They insisted Greece was the aggressor, that the initial shooting was a tragic misunderstanding. But Greece, determined to prove its strength, pressed on with its invasion. The world was stunned. In London, the Times reported on the absurdity of the dog war. In Paris, newspapers joked bitterly that Europe couldn't possibly survive another Balkan conflict. In Washington, American papers drew uneasy comparisons to the spark in 1914 that had ignited the Great War. Behind it, the humor was real, palpable fear. Could this seemingly trivial incident spiral into something much bigger? After all, the last time Balkan tensions had boiled over, the entire world had been dragged into war. The League of Nations convened an urgent session in Geneva. Diplomats from Britain, France, and Italy debated the matter. Some were incredulous. Was Europe really about to witness a war over a dog? But the deaths were real, the fighting was ongoing, and the risk of escalation was undeniable. By late October, the Greek troops withdrew. The villagers slowly returned to their homes to survey the damage. The bodies were buried. The headlines faded. The war of the stray dog had lasted less than 2 weeks. Yet, in that short time, it killed dozens, displaced hundreds, and served as a chilling reminder to the world that peace in the Balkans was never truly secure. So, what can we learn from such an absurd war? For Greece, it exposed the recklessness of its dictator, Pangalos, who was overthrown within a year. For Bulgaria, it was another humiliation, but it also proved that international sympathy and diplomacy could be a powerful defense. For the League of Nations, it was a rare and notable success story, a sign that diplomacy could, in fact, end a conflict. However, this success also foreshadowed how fragile the League's authority would become in the turbulent 1930s. Above all, the War of the Stray Dog shows how incredibly fragile peace can be. Sometimes it isn't massive bombs or grand invasions that light the fuse of war. It's small human moments. A frightened soldier, a nervous trigger finger, and a dog simply running free. The War of the Stray Dog is not the only absurd conflict in history. In 1896, Britain and Zanzibar fought the shortest war ever recorded. It lasted just 38 minutes. In 1932, Australia famously battled emus in the Great Emu War. And in 1969, Honduras and El Salvador clashed after a heated soccer match, in a conflict still remembered as the Football War. These stories might sound funny today, but they remind us that wars are not always rational. They are often fueled by pride, paranoia, and simple miscommunication. And sometimes they are sparked by something as innocent as a dog. So next time you think history is all about kings, treaties, and epic battles, remember the War of the Stray Dog, a war that began with a runaway pet but ended with international diplomacy. If you enjoyed this journey into the stranger corners of history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because history is full of absurd stories, and they're definitely worth remembering. Thanks for watching.